Hi, this is Allie Ford, and we are here on GearHedz, a Jade Lounge production, and I'm here with Mark Velasco. Mark Velasco!
How's it going, Allie?
We were just talking about it right now before we started that I've been trying to remember how long it's been since I've known you, and I can't remember because that's how long it's been. Elementary school, I think.
Sometime around there.
Have you been a musician this whole time that I've known you?
I think the first time I picked up a pair of drumsticks, I was 12. I think I had a keyboard when I was about 10. Messed around with that for a little bit, trying to play Eddie Murphy songs from Beverly Hills Cop. And then graduated the drumsticks and the snare drum when I was about 12 for maybe 6 months. And then when I was about 14, I had a borrowed drum set from Steve Owen, from his brother. And Steve and I played with Richie Willoughby.
Okay. Were you guys like a band?
We used
What
to go
does Steve play? He's the singer, right?
Steve played, I think, bass, and Richie was guitar.
Okay.
And Richie, I think, sang.
Okay.
I think we called ourselves the Bushmen. We were like 14 years old,
I
right?
think that's so great. Yeah.
And so we recorded ourselves on like tapes, and down at Richie's house. And then Steve's brother took the drum set away and sold it. So that was that. Richie continued on playing.
Yeah.
And then I didn't play again until after I graduated high school. And then I bought my first drum set when I was about 19. So that one was mine, and no one was taking it, and I've been playing ever since.
What was it? What kind of a kit?
Oh boy, that was a CB700. Literally, probably the worst drum set ever made.
Really?
There's some pretty shitty ones now, but back then, the CB700s were considered like the worst thing you can get.
Exceptionally shitty.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Okay.
But you know what? It came with rototoms. Those little drums that kind of grow in size, and you twist them, and you can make noises with them, like talking drums in a sense. But it was kind of a fun kit. So then after that, I bought my first real kit, which was like a Premier Janista. That was like a white kit. It was beautiful. Loved it. And that one, I played every day, like 5 hours a day for several years. I was always playing with people too, trying to learn. So hooked back up with Steve Owen, and we used to play in his dad's garage when we were in college. And then I had a friend named Troy Rippingale, and he and this guy Chris and I all would play up here in Alpine at my mom's house, and we had a band.
What was that band's name?
Oh, brother. I think we called ourselves Jamestown Native Mission. We never played out. We never played out, but
I love it.
funny thing was that band ended up forming into another band with Steve, and we had written a bunch of songs. We were really a garage band. And then one day we got into a big fight, and I got kicked out. Of course, it was my band. I wrote half the songs, right? Influenced by my drum beats, and I am the one that got booted.
God, that's an age-old story, I think.
I've been kicked out of almost every band I've been in. And then I don't know why.
Uh-oh.
I guess when you know you want something, I guess it can be difficult, right?
Oh, yeah, true.
But
I don't know if it's difficult or just like you're the focused one,
yeah, I guess I always knew what I wanted, right? So
Yeah.
So then after that band, I joined another band who was called Snake Oil Revival, and we were sort of like a Black Crowes meets Jane's Addiction type band in the late 90s. And
Snake Oil Revival.
yeah, we still got our shit selling on iTunes. Never seen a dime. You can get it all over the place. The guy who we were with this place called Whiskey Records, and the guy was selling all of our shit long after.
Oh.
He's still distributing it. I don't know why, but that band lasted about 5 years. We had a pretty good run at it. Played a lot of shows around town. Recorded an album.
What was your drum kit at this time? Same?
Oh, that kit was that was a Premier Janista. No, that was Premier Signia 75th Anniversary Edition.
Okay.
It was an all-wood hoop drum set. Absolutely beautiful. Recorded that album with that kit and a couple other kits too. But that was probably my best drum set ever. Sold it a couple of years ago to buy some electronic equipment. But
Yes, we're going to get into that shortly.
But after that band broke up, we opened up a couple shows at the Universal Amphitheater outdoors for Def Leppard at one show, and then Ronnie James Dio.
Wait, what? You opened for Def Leppard?
It was outside, but we were the only ones playing there in front of a couple thousand people.
I didn't know this about you.
I can't stand Def Leppard, so I wasn't really talking about it too much.
You're not excited about that.
Well, we opened up for Ronnie
That's
James.
exciting to me.
We opened up for Ronnie James Dio.
Dio. My God, my God, my God.
It wasn't my favorite part of Black Sabbath, so I was not real.
You're
I was
like,
stoked
"Meh."
to be there, right? But our band got into a fight right before we went on stage at the Def Leppard show, and there was an opportunity for us to go on a Jägermeister tour for a month, and the singer wanted us to like pack up and go, and some of us had houses at that point in time of our life and insurance and stuff like that. And I said, dude, I can't just pick up and leave. And we had a plan. And he said, well, if you can't do it, then we're going to find somebody who can. And I said, okay, fuck you, I quit, right? Went on to play that show, and then we all packed up our stuff and went our own ways.
Interesting.
And we didn't talk after that. The bassist and I stuck together. He quit too at the same time.
And when was this?
This was 2002.
Okay.
And then we stuck together for a while, played around, and then he got pregnant after like a year or so, and then he was no longer allowed to play anymore at that point. He was really good too. And then I kept trying out other guitarists and bassists, and I tried out for a bunch of bands over like the next 2 years and played by myself. And I finally just decided to go back to school and then stop playing drums.
Okay.
And then I would go out and play like maybe once a month. But for the most part, I didn't play again for like 6 years.
And then you got with?
And then in 2010, I got a phone call from my old guitarist that was in Snake Oil, asking me if I'd be interested in doing cover songs with him. Okay. And he and his wife had joined up and started doing cover songs at places. And so I said, yeah, sure. And then so the first show, I sat down for like 2 weeks and learned a set and went out there with some bongos. I hadn't picked up bongos in 6 years or so, and started playing. And the next thing you know, the kit started growing. And then...
Do you typically have percussion pieces on your drum kit?
Always.
Always. Okay. Yeah. What pieces do you like to have?
I switch things in and out. I'll put blocks, cowbells, any type of like little blast blocks, chimes, sometimes some metal ice bells. And then I'll put in typically a timbali of some sort, or a bongo. I'll buy a bongo set and break them up, and then drill holes in them. Put brackets on. I put brackets on everything, so I don't bring tons of stands. And so I'm always, if there's anybody who's ever modified a kit, it's me. Every kit that I have. So I would play shows all the time and switch stuff in and out.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was just fun to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
So my kit, I've had kits as big as 14 pieces, and then I've had kits as small as 4 or even 2, really, just a bass and a snare drum. But it's fun to mix it up, I had this this thing called a tam tam. It was like not this big. It was like a big cannon. Yeah. And we played the Ramona main stage, and I brought that out and had that thing there, and it just sounded like a friggin' gong drum. It was so beautiful. Still have that drum. I got rid of a lot of stuff because it just got to be too much over time. If you use, certain things I'll keep, other things I get rid of, trade them out for new stuff and kind of upgrade over time. But
so that kind of brings me to, we got the opportunity to jam together a little bit for a while, just for some fun, and I had a great time doing that. I love that. That was so, for me, and it was at a time in my life when I needed it the most, and it was just really, really fun. And at that time, I think you were just starting to get into the more kind of an electronic sound. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, it's kind of funny because I got the Triple D's was the cover band that I was in for 4 years.
Yes, the Triple D's. We ended up
getting into a big fight.
You and your fights.
And basically I walked out of that band. And then I called up this guy that played bass with us a few times on when Mike was absent. His name was Dave Garcia. Guy was in like 5 bands at the time. And asked him what he was doing, if he needed anybody who needed a drummer. And he said, this chick from One Foot in the Blues was a blues band, and she was a really good singer. We used to play a lot of shows together around town, House of Blues, and Ramona and places like that. And then she was putting a new band together because her band broke up, apparently. She was in a cover band. So I tried out for those guys. And it was really awkward because I'm not the kind of drummer who can sit down. Like Brent's the kind of guy who, Brent's being your husband, of course, the kind of guy who you can hey, say, here's 5 songs, go learn them by Saturday, and it's Wednesday, and he's got it down.
Right.
Right. I have to kind of grow into a tune and see what I like. And so I mean, because I don't like playing things the way they're.
I was going to say, because you bring your own style to the song.
Right. So it takes me a little bit of time to figure it out. So anyhow, these guys were like hardcore. It's got to be like the album. And so I tried out with these guys like twice, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm not going to do it. So that apparently fell apart, and she ended up calling me back like 2 months later saying, hey, I still want to work with you. So why don't you come over? I got a couple other guys now. And so these guys were chill. And we ended up calling ourselves Uncle Stryker, and we spent a whole year writing tunes, and it was so slow. We literally put together like 3 originals in a year. It was so bad that it took that long. And at that time is when I started buying electronics in the background. I'd been going to a bunch of festivals and seeing all this electronic music for the last few years, you know, and before that. And I thought, you know, I might as well get in on that game. So I liked a lot of the sounds that I was hearing, all the frequencies. And then when I started going to NOM with you guys, going downstairs and seeing that whole electronics section, I thought there's something to this, right? So it took a few years for that to kick in. But like 2 years ago, I started buying up on the electronics, and we had been in this band. We literally got to play one show up in Escondido, 3 songs, and we managed to fuck that up. And the 2 guys that were together, they were in another band together. They got in a huge fight, and the band broke up. And so I looked at Christy and I said, you know what? I'm like 44 years old. This is like a year and a half ago. I said, I don't have time to be dealing with bands anymore. I've been working on my own shit with this electronics, and I'm getting more familiar with it. I think we could write some songs with this stuff. Why don't you and I just stick together and become a 2-person band and see what we can do with this? And so she was totally down for it. And so
what does she do? She sings, and what does she play?
She sings. She plays a lot of rhythm guitar. She can play some keys. Okay. She's actually pretty good, really good on the keyboards. And percussion instruments, stuff like that. A little bit of drums. She plays drums too. She does quite a bit.
So the 2-man band thing is
totally
doable and workable. We
started putting together a set and then switching stuff in and out over the course of the last year and a half. Year and 3 months, year and 4 months. But last year we had to figure out our sound, who we were going to be, what we were going to do, and started writing stuff. I started buying all this electronic equipment and then studio equipment and stuff like that, and switching different instruments in and out, trying out which ones work best for us, and eventually settled in on something, and then settled in on something again. And then right now my setup consists of a Ludwig Vista Lite drum set, like the John Bonham drum set, except clear, and then I converted it to electronic. And I run that through a Roland T.
You converted it?
Yeah, I just converted out the heads and put the electronics in there. You can buy that shit.
Okay.
It's not special. Not like I'm an engineer or anything.
Just checking.
And I hooked it up to a Roland TD-20 set. Eventually bought some electronic Zildjian cymbals. So I can, they're all electronic. There's like it's trippy. And then I have like some Roland pads, a theremin, like you would saw with Jimmy Page, and Song Remains the Same. And then I have the Novation, my Novation setup, which I use a lot of Novation. It's a company out in England that does a lot of keyboards. They do drum machines, synthesizers, and a lot of controllers for a lot of the software programs like Ableton, right? And so Novation has this drum machine called a circuit, and it's essentially a 16-step sequencer, which means you can program 16 beats in a row, right? And you can do 8 different patterns of that. So essentially you can write a whole song and let them play one right after another, and you can do 4 drum parts, like a bass, a kick drum, a snare drum, hi-hat, and a ride, and then you have basic house type music set up right there, and then 2 synthesizers. And you can literally play this little thing like a keyboard, but instead of having the keys like this, it's just this little square box, and it has different effects, all sorts of shit.
Drum sounds.
It has everything in there, and you can
right there.
Yeah, in this little thing, and I have 2 of them. And I have one that does a lot of the low end stuff,
Yeah.
and one that does more percussive type stuff. And then right above it, I have this SPD-30 drum pad from Roland that has percussion sounds. And so I also have this other thing called a mono circuit, which is basically like a very similar to like a Roland TB-303, which is a famous acid house type music machine that was used back in the 80s. It was real famous back then. So the mono circuit's similar to that. So it's basically a sequencer, but you can program bass sounds. No one ever talks about this thing, but it's like one of the greatest instruments I've ever bought. Absolutely love this thing, and I'm still learning how to use it. But there's so much I can do with it already. The thing about the Novation compared to other brands like Korg, who has a huge line of electronic instruments, and Roland has always been kind of like the Mercedes-Benz of that stuff because of all their famous drum machines back in the 1980s. But so there's a lot of thousands of manufacturers these days. Korg's always been huge, big Japanese company. But they're, for me, a little more difficult. They're a lot more difficult to figure out, whereas Novation is very intuitive for me.
Okay.
So I kind of stick with the Novation brand. And then I recently just bought this 8-voice synthesizer. It's no keyboards to it, but it's the top end of a synthesizer with all the effects and knobs and buttons, and you can program and they can do a bunch of stuff. And I have this thing called a launch pad, which is basically like 64 pads that are already pre-programmed with patches of music that you can put in there.
Right.
You can also change them and put more. You can add stuff in there. I'm not going down that path yet until I got more time.
Yeah.
But I use the stock stuff in there right now, and so basically I use that instead of a keyboard, and I can play. And I use real basic notes, but I program the synthesizer to do patterns. So when we do songs now, we'll have 3 or 4 different machines doing patterns. She'll play keyboards over it. She has a couple different keyboards and some effects pads for fingers. And then I play the drums and she sings. So we got this whole setup with probably 15, 14 different instruments, all going through a mixer. And so everything's electronic except the voice. But she does have vocal effects. So we have 6 songs ready to record. So I'm trying to learn how to do some recording stuff to at least get us a head start and start getting some singles out there. So
What
we can
do you
start
guys
playing
calling
shows.
yourselves?
Pony and Scoo.
Pony and Scoo.
Pony and Scoo. She's Pony and I'm Scoo.
Okay.
So Scoo was like the high school nickname that I had.
Yeah.
Coined by Matt Barber. He used to call me Scoo Manchu. And so, yeah, we opened up a business license, got a business license, and we're gonna start recording so we can start we'll have music prepared. So when we do our first show, we'll have everything. We'll have a CD out and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
ready to go.
We're gonna try to do it right this time.
Ready to present.
And then it's going to
Gotcha.
be marketing online, as well as going to clubs and going to festivals and trying to get in on the underground festival circuit, basically.
I gotcha. Okay.
So hopefully that'll lead to something else. But the plan was to get out there by the summer, but we're not going to get the CD done in time.
Right.
So we have about 10 other songs in the works behind that. So we literally have
Very good.
we have a full album almost done. 6 songs done for sure, 4 songs halfway done. And then we have another half dozen right behind them that are partials.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff in the works.
And
so,
all this equipment, my God. My God.
Yeah.
I want to see you. I can't wait to see you live.
It's gonna be a fun live set, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Because most people that DJ come out there with a controller and everything's in their Apple and they're just basically playing the play button and doing some filtering,
Right.
doing some effects. Not putting down, the music is amazing a lot of the times, but I think it's just funner coming from being a musician. I'd rather watch people perform.
Right.
So I go to a lot of electronics events around San Diego, where they electronic musicians events, where guys will bring out some of the gear and they'll play. You got the modular guys that are all strictly with the patch chords and
right.
and trying to make all these weird sounds using frequencies. And you got the other guys that use stuff that's not so analog, but more digital or a digital hybrid with analog, like the stuff that I use. It's like a hybrid, right? And so that stuff I think it's more meant towards people trying to put out and produce music, right? And so I think the setup that we have is going to be really interesting to watch. And the fact that we use it in the way we do, I've never seen anybody really do that before.
Right.
So I'm sure it's only around the corner where that's going to start happening. So we're just trying to get ahead of the curve.
But you just feel like you're on the on the front edge of that.
Right,
I love
and
that.
so I think that's
that.
why it's got to be this year. Otherwise, we might fall behind, which that's what I'm worried about.
Do you have a preference? So now that you've kind of are evolving into this electronics drummer, do you find that is just where your entire focus is, or do you ever still want to just bang a kit of drums?
Well, as a matter of fact, on Saturdays, I go up to my friend Jason Harris' house and get together with him and Jason Sears, who I met through you guys.
Okay, yep.
Still play with him today.
What does Harris play?
Guitar.
Okay.
He'll switch off between guitar and bass.
Okay.
And we just kick back on Saturday nights for 3 or 4 hours and play. So
and jam it out.
Yeah, we got a kit there.
That.
We got a regular
fun.
kit there, but I had to switch it up to electronic just so I could control the volume, save my ears, right? Because I'm getting too old. My ears are getting sensitive.
No.
Yeah, and so because like now this time around, I'm buying in-ear monitors. I'm doing it all right because I got to make sure I can hear on stage and not go through some of those bad experiences that I've had where you just have no idea where you're at in a song and you're playing by the skin of your nuts, making sure you're on track and hope that at some point you all meet up and you finish the song out without screwing it up.
Right.
So we're making sure we got all the right gear this time too.
Let's talk about in-ear monitors for a second. What brands of that are you looking at?
So I just bought a set a couple weeks ago. Have not set them up yet. That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
What?
Shure.
Okay.
So I bought Shure inner monitors. I can't remember the number, but it was basically a wireless set with 2 sets. It's about $1,000, but they'll be pretty worth it, you know.
Yeah.
So from what I hear, they have a good frequency range. What I read up on the specs on them, frequency range meaning like 20 kilohertz to 20,000, 20 hertz to 20,000 kilohertz. Basically, your spectrum, right? Most of the music isn't going to be in that, but there's a lot of subwoofer sounds in our music, around 50 to 35 hertz. So you have some really low end stuff in there, and so we want to be able to hear, because when you chop off that low end, it really changes the sound. So that's one of the issues we have with our current setup. We have a lot of sound problems because it took us a while to figure out all the different frequency ranges in our live setup. It's one thing doing it on a computer. It's another thing trying to dial in all the stuff that has all these different frequencies all over the place and trying to learn how to mix that in a set. You have to basically become a live audio mixer.
Right. Tricky.
Right. And so I'm still fondling with that.
Yeah.
And it's not holding us back because we have a pretty decent mix right now, but I know it could be a lot better.
Right.
And that's just going to come with some time on this type of equipment. Trying to figure out how to pan stuff on the mixer and make sure you got everything spread out so it doesn't all sit on top of each other. Because when we first figured out that we needed to buy a new PA system, we had this cheap piece of shit Harbanger powered PA that only went down to like 60 hertz on the low end, and so everything.
What do you have now?
Goes down to the stuff we have now goes down to 35.
What kind of a system
It's
is
a
it?
LD Systems speakers. So there's a big 15-inch subwoofer with 2 12-inch speakers on top of like a T-bar. And we have 2 sets of them. We bought them and mainly to go play places like out in the desert or to just so we're completely self-sufficient. If we want to go play anywhere in the world right now, we can just pack our shit up and go and play. We don't need sound people. We don't need equipment. We got our own setup. So if we go to a club and we don't like their gear, and if we can use our own gear, we would bring our own gear. And so
that's a good deal.
Yeah,
that's how you want to be.
But we practice with those things. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not because it's probably killing our ears in the midst because they're pretty powerful. But yeah, we're just we're trying to learn the gear, get it nailed down, and then hopefully get out there as soon as possible.
Super exciting. I love this new thing that you're doing, and I cannot wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's we've been compared. I haven't really played our music to anybody. We put something on Facebook a couple weeks ago, but that was probably a bad idea because the recording was really bad. It was done through an iPhone, which is probably not the best thing in the world.
I know. I hate the way my phone.
You don't hear anything, so it was actually a bad idea. But I've since then bought this thing called an iRig Duo, which allows you to go from your mixer. So I have a 2-track out, so you can go to a 2-track recorder from our mixer. And it goes into the iRig Duo. And then from the iRig Duo, there's a cable that attaches to my cell phone. my Apple, right? And then I put them on a mic stand, and it literally, the phone captures the video of the room while we're playing, and now the iRig Duo captures the sound directly from the mixer.
Oh.
So we have not published, because we recorded like 9 songs that way. We were going to start throwing them out on the internet as kind of like teasers, like, here, check this out, check this out. But it started acting up, and so I ended up taking it back, and then I just haven't had a chance to go try it out again, because I took this class for like the last 4 weeks, and so we haven't even had practice until this coming Monday.
Okay.
So it took a month off so I could learn how to use Pro Tools and do some audio engineering classes, so we can start recording, basically.
Right.
But we're gonna do a good attempt at recording our stuff ourselves and mixing it ourselves, and then probably working with somebody to make sure the mix is correct.
Yeah.
Double check my work, show me where I can make some more improvements, and then probably send it off to get it mastered.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that myself. I've already realized I might as well just focus on recording it and trying to learn how to mix it, and you got to know where to draw your limits, you know.
Right.
So,
although I love that you're stretching yours. I love that you're doing that. I think every musician should do that, and I love that you're getting that opportunity.
Yeah, it's been the best thing I've ever done, actually. And it really goes back to getting kicked out of bands. Every time I've been kicked out of a band, I grow from the experience.
Yeah.
And there's this guy that I played with. I didn't mention this at the when I started playing with the Triple Ds. I played with this guy named Shane Hall for like 4 months. And he'd just come out here from the East Coast. I met the guy through Craigslist, and we started playing shows. I auditioned for him. He gave me 20 songs and said, "Learn this by Friday." And it was Monday, and it was all on like djembe and congas, and I had this little percussion setup, and we would go up to Oceanside and play shows, and we played 17 shows in 4 months, including the House of Blues and all sorts of places. I mean, we were like at it. This guy eventually, he wanted me to play in the pocket, and I'm like, dude, I can't. I'm just not that kind of a drummer. I do other stuff. So then he booted me, right? And then came back and called me up like a couple months later and said, "You want to play percussion?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm a friggin' drummer."
Yeah.
And so we went our own ways. But anyhow, that guy now he's playing Kaboo. He's playing Lightning in a Bottle. He's playing a whole bunch of other festivals he's got lined up. So things are starting to take off for that guy.
Right.
But he's good. He's good. I mean, we just had our differences, right?
Sure.
At least it wasn't a shitty ending.
Yeah.
But because of that, every single time I've had that sort of a thing happen to me, I've grown from the experience.
Yeah.
And this whole thing with this last band with Chrissy, and we just said, fuck it, we're doing our own thing. Been the best thing that I ever did. It's completely changed me.
That's so great.
So
I love hearing that.
So I'm looking forward to finally getting out there and playing. So I'm at a point now where I'm totally comfortable enough with the equipment to go out and do a set. It's going to take us probably realistically another 5 months to get 3 songs recorded to start handing out to clubs. So
5 months?
5-6 months is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
To get them recorded, mixed, and then start marketing ourselves, right? Because we got to market ourselves. We got to take band pictures. We got to start talking to places and see what we need and how are we going to have our system work with their system. That, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge. Because you can't just walk in with 16 instruments and say, "Here, let's hook up." Right? Most bands don't have that luxury. Yeah. So we got to figure out a way of, I'll come up with some sort of stage plot for these guys and go talk to all the engineers before I get there, and then work out somewhere where we can hook it up through, have my system, my PA communicate with theirs, right? And then just give them an iPad and let them mix my stuff from there if they need to. Something like that. Because my mixer has that iPad capability.
Yeah.
So it's something that I have to learn still. Right. But we're getting there.
Right. Well, Mark Velasco, it is so great to know you. And I want to say thank you so much for coming to our humble studio and spending time with me talking about your new adventure. I think that's so exciting, and I cannot wait to hear and see you guys.
Always love coming to the Jade.
Scoo.
Yep. Always love going to the Jade Lounge. Thank you guys for having me. Can
anyone find you guys right now to listen to anything anywhere?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, you just let us know, and we'll
real soon here. Absolutely.
Will, do some cross communicating with you guys and put you out there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Likewise.
This is Jade Lounge Productions, and we are talking about gear on GearHedz. Peace. Peace.